Blue Storm is this funny map that we rather enjoy for its aesthetics. The dongers, if you will. I can't even.
Oh, I was like, I don't remember this map. All right.
Yeah, I was waiting to see if you were gonna clue in or not. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Starbow Day on BaseTradeTV. We've got the Starbow Showmatch series going on right now, spawning here in the top right of this best of 5. Currently down 1 at the moment. The blue Protoss, Crank.
In the bottom left, as the red Zerg, it is Impact.
Alright, so Impact had a pretty good response to those cannons. If we're going to be quite honest, that's something that could have gotten out of hand pretty quickly if he hadn't handled that with such a cool head. But before we talk too much about strategy for this game, guys, a quick thing about the map. Again, there's like 2 little openings that we'll keep an eye on. I want to give a big shout out to what's going on for sponsorship for today. Again, big shout out, of course, goes to Axiom's team owner, Total Biscuit. He kicked off everything with a $100 donation to get a Starbow Showmatch going. We had originally planned to only have like 1 or 2 of these going, but then we had a sponsor get involved, Loaded Commerce. You see their logo there in the top right. They basically helped us pay for, with a combination of subscriber, I guess, money, the rest of the show matches today. So instead of only being able to put on like barely 1 or 2 matches, we're able to give you about 3 or 4, and we managed to include the Ladder Cup as well. So we were able to include the Starbow amateur community, and include these sort of pro players, and get this really nice day set up. So big shout outs to everybody who helped make today happen. We got some good stuff on the way and more good stuff coming. But a hatchery coming down out of Impact first. Not a bad thing in Starbow. I think the hatch versus pool dynamics are not nearly as present, but with that cannon rush from game 1, you gotta wonder like what was his thought process on not going pool first.
It's also could happen again. Crank did go for a Forge first. I mean, it didn't work out at all last time, but there was the option. Crank decides to throw it on a Nexus instead.
I think on this one too, there's not a lot of space you can really abuse for cannons. Like the middle lines are pretty closed off. It's kind of hard to get more than 1 space in. And as we saw, actually, Spinecars deal with that pretty nicely. Some hit and run mechanics for the drone. What was it trying to do? Did it forget it was melee?
I don't know. Probably, because didn't they have like a little bit of a range in Brood War?
I actually, I don't know. That wasn't my my time. That was like your speciality. But this gas steal out of Impact is actually kind of cute and going to be actually quite effective, because this means, okay, let's assume Impact wants to do something like a Hydralisk bust. This means any chance of getting Twilight Council, much less Zealot speed, is significantly delayed. And it's really the only effective way we've seen moves like that be held off in the past.
Yeah. Well, that might be Impact's plan. It's a little bit of an odder map, is because, of course, you have this very, very tiny entrance. But really, if you wanted to get a good concave or whatnot, you'd go to the right a little bit and try and attack in through there.
You know, you pointed out to me during that last cast, and now all I hear is Otter as well, like O-T-T-E-R.
Wait, what?
You pointed out when I was saying Otter, like O-D-D-E-R, like a little bit odd.
Right.
And now I can't stop hearing it whenever you say it.
Yeah, they're pretty close. BM English.
Oh, that's actually, that one lane's not in range of the cannon. If it was to hold position on top of the geyser. It's kind of a cute move.
Oh, that is super. That would be super annoying. But instead, she says after this probe. I mean, again, there's no warp in, or no one really gets warp in. So, chasing a probe is not usually because you're afraid that they're going to put a proxy pylon that will ruin your day. You just don't want them to get scouting, free scouting.
This is what I was talking about a moment ago. This is quite annoying, because Impact's denied gas in the main. He's now denying gas at the natural, while the Twilight Council's on the way. No, Zealot leg enhancements. Well, actually, he's got enough gas for it, strangely enough. But still, like, a lot of his gas intake has been so stifled here in the early game. And of course, for Impact, you know, we've seen a lot of him in regular StarCraft 2, guys. We had the pleasure of watching him for DreamHack, of course, up there on the main stage, back in combination semifinals and finals. But we haven't seen a whole lot of him in Starbow. At least I haven't personally. So really excited to see that he's able to handle himself with just small, little, but really intelligent tactical decisions, being able to transition both that into a StarCraft 2 career and here in Starbow at the same time. Because one of the big things we've talked about before as well, like this sort of thought process of pros, you know, how much time would someone, like say on Axiom, devote to Starbow for practice? Probably not a lot, because they got to work on their regular StarCraft 2 regimen. Like, how can you squeeze in 5 hours of Starbow practice if you got 10 of StarCraft 2, you know? So it's nice to see that these guys are still up to par.
This area is really annoying for Crank.
Right, like these cannons, if they were like one grid place over, but they can't be.
Oh,
that link.
messed up.
Well, I guess, yeah, if you can't bring the cannons to the link, bring the link to the cannon. Woo. Did you catch, by the way, last night, Artosis and Tasteless were playing this?
No, I saw the Reddit post.
I watched for about like a half hour before I went to bed, and the whole time I'm thinking like, the ladder cup's way better than these nerds, gosh. But no, it's cool to see that like there's actual interest in Starbow, because you look at like there's so much dumb hate in StarCraft 2, especially on Reddit more than anywhere else. But I mean, I love Starbow. I'm never gonna stop loving Starbow. It's just nice to see that there's actual other interest out there other than say you and me.
These zealots are not going to do a whole lot. A lot of lings
Yeah.
swamped out. Just took care of that.
Unfortunately for Crank in the full retreat mode, Leg Enhancements did kick in, so you might be able to save a couple of these. You can always warp in, or warp save one. Okay, Lings are trying to predict the path of the Zealot, but that actually lets it get away. 4 Zealots over here, if they force him into the choke, would be a good place to fight, but not out here in the open. He's going to get a couple Lings for this, but with that, look at that sort of hit and run moves out of these Zealots. Getting way more Lings than he should have initially. Impact is going to be forced to disengage off this.
Zealot speed. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's so weird. Leg enhancements is something I haven't thought about ever until we started casting Starbow. Because again, like I never really did Brood War, but seeing that charge mechanic was like the coolest thing to me. But leg enhancements, man, just so much better.
Man, he could easily run past those cannons with that metalings.
I think so too. Even if there was something in hold position here, and they had to go the long way around. But Zealots on the other side of the map will find some Hydralisks. This is a bit awkward. We got Dark Templar following this up as well. It's worth noting, guys, Dark Templar can become Archons. They can be actually very, very effective for harass. And they're the one unit that hasn't really been tweaked too much in Starbow. But Zealots getting on top of these Hydralisks. Again, no movement speed bonus on creep. Means these Zealots don't really care where they take the fight, as these just start shredding these to bits. The +1 weapon upgrade's really paying off right now as well. And Crank, let's not forget, he's got an escape path over here. He can always recall if necessary from the Nexus. We got Templar coming out as well, so Storm will probably be started soon, if not just used for Archons. Either way, the Zealot Force still doesn't quite have an answer to it. Hydras are trying to kite it, but the Lings have been cleaned up, which means these Zealots can start going back to town, back to work on these Hydras. And I don't think Impact's in any danger of losing the game here, but man, that was a lot more damage than I think he intended to take.
Probably. But he is on 3 base. He has a good drone count at 28, which sounds really weird. Apparently there was some harass in the main that we didn't really catch.
Oh, yeah,
DT was in there.
That's only got about 5 kills, but still drove the workers off the mineral line. In fact, how many died total? So about 10 in total. So yeah, that's not too bad, split between 3 bases, but for, as you point out, the lower drone count actually ends up being adequate. It's so strange to think of it like that, but drone counts in Starbow, worker counts are not as high in demand. You're not going to see snoot levels of droning anytime soon in Starbow, I don't think. And if you do, that player's probably going to lose the game, because that's some really inefficient mining on 3 bases.
Well, one thing Impact's really, really starved on is gas. And that's because it's 3rd base. I forgot to mention this. The 3rd base doesn't actually have gas. So he's on 2.5 bases, really. I mean, that gas is pretty important, and he doesn't have it.
I like the control and the position out of Crank here. He did kind of stutter step in and do like a double take. He didn't quite know if there's going to be an Overseer for detection or not. He knows they're out in play, but you cannot run an Overseer very quickly. And detection range in Starbow, guys, by the way, on like most things, is kind of neutered compared to that of StarCraft 2. Like we're used to seeing a missile turret detect an entire base, even though it can't attack an entire base. Not the case in Starbow.
Another thing about these DT's attacks is that Impact has to like leave small handful of units every other base, so the frontal attack that Crank is trying to form up.
Storms.
Oh god.
Let's not forget, these hit for a lot harder than they do in StarCraft 2, guys. 112 damage per storm instead of 80. Drones get annihilated on that mineral line. Black goo left behind because we are on the Korean server, but still, backing away from this. He's got a couple more storms locked and loaded. Zealots have no problem dealing with half-health Hydralisks.
So need to be careful.
He's got almost one more storm. Okay, he's got one more storm in this. Almost 2. Yeah. For Impact, the chase is a little bit dangerous.
Ring around the Lurker.
Yeah. I can't help but think of those like StarCraft custom games where you like run the medic around the spikes in the Raynor Party type games.
Oh yeah, was that on purpose? Did he make that into a Lurker so that it wouldn't die?
I think
that'd
that,
have been cool.
That and you get like that heal from the cocoon, right? Or at least I don't actually know if you do that in Star. I'd imagine you would. We'll find out in a minute. Front lines being sieged up once again. Crank actually doesn't have an observatory yet. He doesn't have a way to detect and deal with these lurkers outside of storms, so he has to rely on that damage. And it looks like, yeah, you do full heal from an egg. Because of course the Robo facility. Oh, he does have an observatory. I take that back. Sorry, I just didn't see an observer with the army, but now it is here. My bad. But the lurkers deal so much damage. This is not going to be easy to deal with no matter what. In fact, the Templar kind of being suicided in here. A bit of a misclick, I think. Has got greedy over those storms. Did a lot of damage, but lost a lot of Templar for it. Army supply for both players pretty surprisingly even, but I think the Dragoons will be able to win this out. He does have Singularity Charge, so the range bonus, that range necessary to fight is here, but he needs to hit and run. He can't let the fast attack speed of the Hydralisk be utilized.
And he also needs to, stay away from those lurkers, obviously. He really wants to keep this third base, and rightfully, you want to try and defend it. But if you can't tangle with the Hydralisk, you can't really tangle with the Hydralisk and the lurkers as well.
I mean, the thing is, for the third base, dying is not... It's not the same as StarCraft 2. Again, I want to emphasize this for those who are a little more casual to the Starbow scene. Your economy is so high off of 2 bases that this third base isn't as necessary. It's good to have more, obviously, but it's not like he'll be out of the game for losing this third. Impact hasn't overexpanded either, and he's really dedicating a lot to this. More Hydras have rallied across the map, but unfortunately, he's just got no way to deal with these lurkers too easily.
All out of storms. That could have really helped, having those 5 storms, but now he's down a base, which is the biggest problem. As long as he keeps his army size, pretty healthy.
The Hydralisk count is starting to get a little out of hand, and we do have actual upgrades on them as well, so the damage they're dealing is quite significant. But the Zealots manage to connect to the Lurkers, and as the Lurkers start going down, the Dragoons can start pushing forward, and Zealots can continue to be made behind this. The biggest thing the Lurkers were doing was keeping the Zealot count low, and the Dragoon count, well, not exactly great against Hydralisks, are really making great use of the hit and run mechanics. Dragoons are so strong, but of course they can't really contend with that attack speed.
Impact just continuing on with these layer units, not really going up to Hive yet, joining up a little bit as well.
This control to Crank is actually really nice. Despite fighting in range of all the Hydralisks, still managed to outrange a couple.
But he did lose that third. I mean, Impact lost his entire army. He took a good chunk of it, though, with him. But, I mean, look at the supplies. It didn't really go heavily either way. And Impact, it's not like he has really, really great tech either.
The only argument I would really make is the fact that Impact did come out behind a resources lost, and if he didn't take that third base, that attack would have been absolutely devastating. Because, you lose all your Hydras, as you pointed out, all the Lurkers go down as well. But
yeah, well, I think it was a given that you get that base.
Yeah.
I mean, Crank maybe had better positioning, or maybe stalled a little bit more. Maybe he doesn't, but I think Impact was pretty sure he was going to get that. Maybe seeing a little bit of tunnel vision to end the game too, but that didn't quite happen. Attacking again, just on these lair units, can work out. I mean, the storms, they still really aren't there. Oh, nope, there they are. There's 4 of them.
Well, the Hydra splitting is pretty good out of Impact. There's a couple more storms about to, well, actually aren't ready. The biggest thing, of course, is using them to clear out Lings more so than Hydralisks. I mean, the damage is good no matter how you can utilize them, but the actual army supply behind this is not too great. A couple Zealots going to clean up from the left side. Actually, we'll be able to push this back. The Dragoon count is kind of faltered, so the ranged artillery behind this is just not existent for Crank. But as we see, with just Hydralisks, the Zealots will work out quite nicely. As we've seen from some of the Starbow Ladder Cup stuff, though, guys, Zerglings can be incredibly effective once you get that Hive Tech associated with them, once you got Adrenal Glands mixed in. But as we see, that their buffer is kind of non-existent. These Lurkers are not going to get a chance to live.
No. Also mixing in 1 DT, probably going to try and head it someplace else to one of those bases to get a lot of drone kills, but it also would have been really nice to have here. The Overseers are constantly being picked off, and he could get some free swipes in. The other one is coming in, though, and the Observers could potentially be picked off.
Maybe.
So many, though. Only 2 went down, so there's 2 more.
Oh. Well, I'm busy, but Red Bandit just PM'd me asking for a shout out. Absolutely. If you enjoyed the player that you saw earlier today, guys, twitch.tv/ToRedBandits. Anyway, still advancing forward here. Good game going to be called. Crank! Just that army dominance, man. We'll tie it up now 1-1. Alright, guys, we did link. I just linked a Reddit thread in chat a moment ago. Oh yeah, we're swapping channels. I gotta go. I'm busy. No, I am a